Hey guys, it's me again. Um, Sorry it's been so long. Things got a little bit out of hand for a little while, but I'm back for now. Things have calmed down quite a bit for me. And I just wanted to talk today about how crazy things have been since my last video. And I don't want to go into specifics item by item about what happened in the news because I don't care, to be honest. I don't know about you guys, but I don't care anymore about any of this, and it's because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything, right? People are just screaming at each other at this point for no particular reason. There's no really good reason for it to be happening anymore. Because, in my eyes, and it's been this way for me for a while, but I had hope until very recently that things were going to turn around. They're not. They're not turning around. Not at all. Not at all. I kept waiting for the crash. You know what I mean? I kept waiting for the crash. Whether it was a giant market crash, a social crash, like whatever crash you want, just fill in the blank. And I was always waiting for it ever since I was a kid. You know, and it just never came. Not really. I mean, there was the housing crisis in '08, but you know, that was one market. I was really waiting for the whole thing to come crashing down because the reality is that everything feels like a scam all the time, and it almost always has ever since I really became conscious. Things have always seemed like a greedy little scam. And I'm not one of those guys who talks about this kind of stuff as a grift and then tries to be like the anti-scammer. Oh, I'm different, I'm special. The reality is I was somebody who was really interested in making it work for me. That's what I wanted. I figured that's what you did. I mean, there was a point where it was like, look, it's a scam, but that's okay. That's not the problem in and of itself. But someone's got to let me in on their scam, or one of my scams got to pay off something, something like that. And I was thinking about this the other day, actually, how much I wanted to be in. You know what I mean? How much I wanted to be in. And what I realized over time, especially more recently, was that I was never going to get let into any of these scams ever. And the reason was because I was too honest. I was too honest, and I couldn't play the scam quite right enough for them. And that's really my problem, because it's like, if you're running scams because you kind of have to. And we'll get into what I mean in a second. That's fine. The world is the world. I'm not here to change the world, or at least I wasn't. Um, all I really wanted was a little piece of it, a small piece, not even a big one, just a little tiny corner for myself. Hey, could you give me a little piece of the pie? Just the slightest sliver would have bought me off, I think. You know what I mean? It would have bought me off. I would have been okay. and and they wouldn't give me that. Because it never ends. The scams never end. The greed never ends. It's always all consuming. All consuming. So, what is a scam? What am I talking about when I'm talking about these wars? And I don't even mean just the physical ones. I don't mean just Ukraine and Israel and all the rest of it. I mean, even just the podcast wars that we have now, the culture war that's become this sort of weird consumer boomer fight over, like, there's I feel like a lot of podcasters really want the fight to be over right versus left still. You know what I mean? I think that makes very easy sides, right? That's what the scam has to be, because it makes very easy sides to say right versus left. Which side are you on? And then they can just play the side, because that's how market works, right? Markets, it's always going to come down to choices. this item versus competing item, you know? And when you have this sort of consumerist boomer culture around that, what you end up with is this bizarre spiral where everybody is constantly trying to make a market out of everything. And again, that in and of itself, not necessarily a huge problem, provided that it's sort of put in its corner, right? As long as it's got boundaries. But it's everything now. And the one thing that it really invaded was philosophy and the concept of identity and the truth. You know, because it's one thing for there to be, you know, I have to deal with markets all the time as a consumer, just, you know, whether it's highly technical stuff or, you know, your average Amazon purchase. And one of the things that I started laughing at was it always felt like somebody was trying to sell me something based on, you know, consumer index, some kind of this versus that, you know, as seen on TV, the new Israel war, you know. It's bizarre. It's just gotten so strange. And it's why you see things, in my opinion, stuff like Alex Jones, right? Alex Jones is a guy who was all about truth and honesty when it came to his politics. Is he a circus act? Sure. Yeah. Does he go overboard in his show? Absolutely. But I never for 1 second really doubted that in the moment, you know what I mean? In the moment, Alex Jones feels like he's talking. When he speaks, he's saying something he's really feeling inside. And I can deal with that, honestly. I can deal with that. That means you'll get stuff wrong, just like everybody else. But that's all we can really do, right? The problem with grifting now, and the problem with this sort of boomer market culture around truth and philosophy and politics, is that you can't have that. You've got to sort of toe some kind of line all the time. The nice thing about Alex Jones was that he was somebody you could tune into and you could get a genuine take. Was it always a good take? No. Was it always the real, proper, complete truth? No. Was he kind of a maniac sometimes? Yeah. But you know what? In the moment, he was being honest. I'm not seeing that anymore from him. I don't know. He's now towing a line, and it's because Trump won, right? Trump won, and the market shifted because all of a sudden, Trump was the authority, and so now what you have is all these Republicans and conservatives, and even libertarians, whatever. Everybody's got some bizarre word now for whatever they believe because they're a very, very special snowflake. There is this bizarre sense from the right that they now need to do exactly what the Dems were doing all the time, which is, you make that little camp around a fortress around the truth, and you hide from everybody what's really going on to toe the line, to make something happen for some greater purpose. And I feel like that's what's happening now with Alex Jones and his desire to be friendly and friends with Elon Musk. And I think Alex Jones is also somebody who, let me put it like this. Alex Jones is what happens when you go broke in this country at this point, right? When you've got nothing left, when it's all been taken from you, you are not a citizen anymore with an opinion. And it's been that way forever. You are a slave. And the reason that you are a slave is because you now have to subjugate yourself to the whims of others to live. And that's what Alex Jones, I think, is doing here. And and I've been saying this for a long time, the idea of school loans, of saddling 18-year-olds with these school loans, does the exact same thing. It does the exact same thing. When you saddle a kid with $120,000 in school loans and tell him that it's all going to be paid off in just a few years, don't even worry about it, you'll get a job, and he or she gets out into the market, let's face it, usually it's a he at this point, right? And he goes out into the market, and there's no job for him. There never was. There never was going to be. And there's no way to get a mulligan on the school loan. What do you think you've made? Is that somebody with their own opinions at that point, or are they going to say and do whatever they need to survive? You've created a slave. That's what we've been doing. But what I want to talk about today is a version of that I've been seeing since I was a kid that has nothing to do with money. This sort of bizarre slavery to an idea or ideas that come from nowhere, seemingly nowhere. But one of the things that I've noticed forever is that people just make a choice about what they believe, and that's it. And I'm tired of it. I can't care about this anymore, because there can't be an America if we can't have a dialogue that ends with changed minds. Period. I'm going to say that one more time, because this is the thing that's going to kill us in the long run. Mark my words. The thing that's going to kill America is that no one will change their mind. I spent a lot of my early life trying to figure out how to change someone's mind, because I grew up in a really bad family. And in really bad families, everybody has a position that is based entirely on need. Some egotistical need, usually, but let's just call it a need. And that's all I'm seeing now. There was a time when it was really just my family, but I had this idea that you could dialogue with somebody and change their minds. And the more that I think about it, the more I realize I don't think I've ever seen it. Not really. I have one friend who I think I started pulling to one direction, and I think to a certain extent he pulled me in the other direction, right? That's how it's supposed to work, by the way. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of dialogue that I keep referring to. And I just don't see it. I don't know in my own life if I can ever point to a case where I made something stick that way. You know what I mean? And the more I talk to other people about this, the more I realize they also have not had a situation where they sat down and had a 3-hour debate with somebody about something they really cared about, and they walked away having moved, or the other person having moved their position at all. That is terrifying. That is a terrifying concept. And it's not just like, you can't just blame that on markets, right? I can do that when it comes to podcasting, where I go, look, they have a market to fill. Fox News has a market to fill. MSNBC has a market to fill. Daily Wire has a market to fill. Sam Cedar has a market to fill. What about you? What is your excuse as an individual? If you're one of those people, by the way, I'd love to hear from you what the hell is going on. You've never, you know what I mean? Like you've never had your mind changed at all? Never? You can't think of like, and I don't mean like, what should we have for dinner? I don't mean, what graphics card you should put in the PC next. I mean like real important identity stuff. Sincere, spiritual, emotional, psychological positions that you have that have been changed over time. In particular, not only by your own experiences, but by somebody else talking to you. Why is that happening? What is going on? Because at this point, I'm not sure that I've done that in a long, long time, if at all. I think what ends up happening is, at best, I can pull somebody in the right direction, but what they'll do is they will create a scenario in their head where they haven't changed their minds. They've always believed the thing I'm saying. It's just that they've tweaked the language. You know what I mean? That's like the best I've been able to do, really, in most cases. Again, I think there's one exception that I can think of, but otherwise, it's really just, and of course, obviously, it's like the obvious answer is ego, right? Why else would this be happening? It's ego. But whatever it is that's happening and why it's happening, because I haven't really thought about this enough to really know why this is happening. In the long run, it will be our doom. Period. There will be no sense of safety in the world because everybody's going to just have a position. And at that point, you're all at war with anybody who has a different position. That's all. That's all. And then we're just going to end up killing each other, right? That's what it all comes down to. How many podcasts now and how many mainstream media shows at this point will talk about incoming civil war and what's going on and why, and nobody knows what the hell is going on. What happened to dialogue? You know what I mean? I remember having to explain dialogue to somebody, and I think I told you guys this story, but just in case I didn't, this was kind of a fascinating discussion that I had with somebody where, I was trying to explain to this leftist, sort of feminist leftist, young professional, what politics used to look like before her time, before she was sort of paying attention. And that the right wing and the left wing could agree on most basic major issues. Big things like, do we care about our children? Yeah, Do we want to be able to have enough money to do what we want in life and to not only live but to thrive? Yeah, sure. I mean, within reason, blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. There were big things that they could agree on, and then it was really, politics used to be a dialogue about the policy, right? It was the nitty gritty. Were you really more law and order, or were you sort of more welfare? It takes a village. That was kind of those were the two areas that you would find yourself in, generally speaking. And to a certain extent, it's still like that, but it's become far more coarse than that now. I know some people, and by the way, this is right and left. This is not just left-wing people that are doing this. I'm deeply, deeply disappointed in my right-wing buddies who I can't even talk to them anymore. It's not worth my time. It's not really worth my time, because what they'll do is, this is something I experienced today. What they'll do is they'll refuse to sort of deal with the problem at hand that you've presented them with philosophically. and then they'll go to some other corner of social media and then passive aggressively sort of, agree with people who agree with them and make these sort of passive aggressive shower argument tweets, oh, this is what I should have said. This is what I should have said. And none of it is actually good enough to deal with any of these issues. It's over. It just seems like everybody, oh man, everybody thinks they have it right. And it's never a dialogue anymore. You notice how often people find themselves the hero of everybody's story these days? I think they call it main character syndrome now, but it's weirder than that, because main character syndrome usually applies to people who are just, they're sort of putting themselves out there in a very strange way. This is something else. This is something else entirely. I've noticed that there are a lot of people that I meet and that I know, and if you talk to them enough, you'll find out that they think that they're like John Connor from the Terminator franchise, that they are the next revolutionary. And they have zero interesting thoughts in their head, but they all believe that. I don't know where that comes from. I think it comes from Hollywood. I think we watch a lot of these action movies and we just start thinking, that's me, And it's okay to think that, like, temporarily, If you're like, yeah, I'm like that. I'm that cool for about 10 minutes. And then it's like, all right, relax, But man, people have become so crazy. It's gotten so out of hand. And when nobody will budge on any of these issues and there's no dialogue, we don't have a democracy. Let's talk very quickly about the strength of democracy. The true strength of democracy is the wisdom of the masses. And of course, the obvious question there is, are the people not idiots? Are people not dumb, panicky animals when in a herd? And there is a difference between herd mentality and the wisdom of the masses, right? The idea originally, I think this comes from Aristotle's Politics, is that, if you're trying to solve a problem by yourself, what do you usually end up going to do? You go to your buddy and you ask him, I got a real problem. I don't know how to fix it. I think I want to do this. What do you think about that? Do you know something that I don't know? Do you have a different perspective than I do? And that was always the idea behind democracy, was, look, we've all got different perspectives and we can all see the problem from different angles. So let's all listen to each other, and by our collective wisdom, we can move forward better. But we can't do that if all we do is cross our arms and go, you're not going to tell me what to do. Because that's all I see now. And it comes back to that problem of, like, the main character syndrome issue, right? If you're the main character and you can't stop telling yourself that and telling other people that, and you're desperate to believe that you have the answer because you're the hero, not only are you a lunatic, first of all, not only are you a complete Looney Tune, but you're also not getting the benefit that life gives us from society. So now you have the worst of both worlds. Because you live in a society, but all it does is it just becomes this bizarre, cramped, claustrophobic city, mega city. Every place just becomes a hive of people. Because if we're not working together, and there's no dialogue, and there's no place for us to go to have the dialogue, which, let's face it, that's exactly what's happening now, right? There's a reason why people don't go to their city council meetings. It's because it doesn't matter. It's because you yell and you scream and you get mad, and they just kind of sit there. Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to want to change. Nobody seems to want it. Nobody wants anything or feels like they need anything from each other anymore. Isn't that bizarre? Even when I go to a fast food restaurant, right? It feels like there's just no deals, just zero deals. And if they do, it's like they just feel so magnanimous about it. Hey guys, we're doing a little deal for you. Yeah, yeah. We're good people. We are cool. You're welcome. You are so welcome, dude. What is going on? I don't know. It feels like nobody wants your business anymore, that they don't care. Here's a weird little thing that I've noticed lately. Nobody wants to put their contact information on their websites when they're selling stuff. Have you guys noticed that? I've noticed that a lot lately. It used to be contact us, and there was these people had fax numbers on there, like weird boomers, leftover stuff. Fax us a question, like someone was doing that. But I mean, there was email. Not only did they list the email, they actually had a portal for you and a phone number. And usually there were multiple phone numbers. There was a general phone number. There was a phone number to, the sales department as opposed to the training department, as opposed to whatever. Everybody has 14 departments now in their companies. And there would be at least 3 or 4 phone numbers. Nobody wants to talk to you anymore. Buy it or get the out of here. You don't like it? Get screwed. You got a question? Buy it first. You don't like it? Send it back. It's bizarre. No one wants to talk to each other anymore. Even I was reading I was sort of glancing at an article about how Gen Zers don't like to talk on the phone anymore. And I mean, that's always been a problem for a lot of people. That's not Gen Z necessarily, but I'm sure it is worse with Gen Z because it's a weird thing to just text people or to just call people instead of texting. It feels less intrusive to text somebody and let them text you back when they want to. Totally get that, but this is something else, right? This is something else because, in my opinion, I have to make sure that every time that I call somebody, I have every single question on a piece of paper because I know that if I need to call back, I'm going to get a different person. Not by the way, I don't mean like a different phone operator. I mean same guy or gal. And this time they're going to, when they realize, oh, that's this guy calling back again, now they're pissed. It's weird. It's wacky. It's like they can only put the mask on for like a single phone call. And then you call them back a couple days later, hey, I got a couple more questions about the product, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh my God, it's this guy again. I got to do work again. I got to do my job again. Buddy, enough with the questions, bro. You know what I mean? So it's just, nobody's talking to each other. Nobody's talking to each other. Even businesses. I mean, like, if there's one group of people that you would imagine would do this stuff and talk to you, it's businesses. Do you have any idea how much money and time was put into trying to engage customers when I was a kid and in my early 20s? There was so much conversation in the business world back then about how to reach out to customers and make them want to come to you. And if there were people calling you up, that was a wet dream for every business. Please call us. Please be thinking about me. Thank you. Thank you for thinking about me. And now, not only does nobody have to really go after customer bases for anything, it seems. They just don't see, people just don't seem to care. Buy it or get out. I don't really care. And I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. You know, because even when companies would get bad feedback, that would be considered in the long run a good thing. Because what it meant was that your customer base cared about your product enough to call in. The worst thing that could happen is people try your product and go, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again. And they just disappear on you. And people understood that. But if people are calling in and going, what the hell are you doing? I've been a customer for blah, blah, blah years, and let me tell you something, buddy boy, you're going to change this tune, or I swear to God, I'll never come back again. That's what you want from people, even when it's negative. You want to have that dialogue, and no one wants to have it anymore. And I don't get it. Like, and again, I know I keep switching back and forth between markets and the individual. And the reason that I keep doing that is because it's affected both. And that's what's weird about it. There's something clearly here. I don't know exactly what it is. There's something clearly going on. But we've got to stop yelling at each other and every time you walk away from a conversation, a debate, an argument, please stop and be self-aware and think and do some self-analysis about what the other person was saying and why they were saying it. It's so bizarre. It comes back to that main character syndrome problem, right? Because, of course, if you're the hero of the story, if you're the John Connor of the coming revolution, whatever the hell you think that is, then I guess you really don't have to feel like you need to take into anybody else's opinion into account, right? Why would you? I suppose. You're John fucking Connor. You're the hero, baby. Anyway, that's it for now. It's just something I've noticed, and it's really frightening because it's scary to watch people do it in real time and not realize that they're doing it themselves and not realize how dangerous this is. This isn't funny. This isn't some like hee ha ha moment in our lives. This is something terrifying. I don't know who to blame. Do you blame the public school system or parents? Do you blame the boomer generation? It could be. This is going to be something that I come back to for sure. And I'll be making further videos on it, I'm sure, because the reality is there's some reason for this. There's some reason for this, that we're not talking to each other anymore. And it's made things very boring, actually. Hasn't it? I mean, is that just me? There's no way. There's no way it's just me. I'm terribly bored with what's going on out there. The politics, nobody moves. If you're watching a game and the pieces don't move, are you watching a game anymore? Is it interesting to watch the pieces on a chessboard stay still? Of course it's going to get boring. Of course, when the same person over and over and over again, I almost want to call it like Dave Rubin syndrome at this point. You know what I mean? Because Dave Rubin, he was a guy who, everybody liked for a little while. He had this real panache to him for a little while because he was a leftoid gay man who Republicans and conservatives saw a hint of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reasonability? Maybe, they saw a hint of reason to him. And they said, here's a guy who shouldn't agree with us on anything by modern political standards, but he says a shocking number of things that are, what would become anti-woke, right? And so people kept waiting for him to come over. Okay, now you need to make the next step. You know what I mean? Now you need to, all right, let's figure out. And he never adapted, not ever. And I think most people just realized he was a scam artist, that this was a grift, that this was a guy who realized that he could be a gay, anti-woke fence sitter and make money doing it. And frankly, I'm not sure how successful he's really been for the last decade or so. But, those first 3 to 5 years, I would say, of his career coming out as a podcaster, he was doing well. He was doing well doing it. I don't know. Again, I don't know. Long term, not so much, I don't think. But who knows? I'm not even sure. That's another thing. I don't want to get too far off base here, but I can't. If I'm bored with this stuff, and I have spent an indecent amount of time wondering about these things, thinking about politics, thinking about policy, thinking about why things have gone so awry. And now you would think that podcasting and the news would be the most exciting it's ever been. And I'm bored stupid. I'm bored stupid by it because it's just so by the numbers, right? You get the sort of Joe Rogan fence sitter problem. You get or you have alternatively the Whoopi Goldberg, I say what my masters tell me to say problem. And at that point, it's boring, right? There's no more hot takes, I guess. I guess that's what it is. But it's also, again, can't stress this enough. It doesn't matter. Spicy takes in and of themselves are not spicy. It's when there's a dialogue happening and there are pieces moving on the chessboard. It's when you can actually watch people sort of maneuver and change and grow, and that you can grow with them. I think that's what podcasting really was good about, by the way, was, you could see people sort of have these mental moments, and you could have them with that person. You could have it with the host. And, it was very populist, right? It wasn't corporate take after corporate take after corporate take. It was real. It was real. That's what it felt like. Is that what it feels like anymore? And again, please don't blame this on the corporatization of podcasting. It's not just that. It's not just that, because it's happened to people that I know and who are not corporate. They make no money. There's nothing going on there. It's something else. Yes, the businesses are doing it, but individuals are doing it too. And I just wanted to put this out there. I really wanted to be able to start asking the big question, what is going to get us back to dialoguing with each other? And I just don't have an answer for that right now.